In the darkness of the night, an angel stood atop a mountain, gazing down at a world full of lost souls. His heart weighed heavy, not only from his own fall, but also from the pain of witnessing the suffering of human souls. He wondered, is it because of him that this world has grown darker? People only see the darkness enveloping the earth, but no one understands the torment of the fallen angels. They are not monsters, but dreamers of freedom, yearning to feel the love and pain of humanity. In return, they are bound by eternal regret. An angel looked up at the sky, his wings shattered. He whispered into the wind, "I just wanted to be loved, to feel the warmth I saw in human eyes. Why is it a sin? Why must my desire come with the price of eternal damnation?" His voice broke softly like a cold breeze rustling through the leaves. The secret of the ancient book is a question without an answer. Do these angels truly deserve punishment? Or are they victims of a harsh rule, of a world that does not tolerate differences? Their lives are left with darkness and eerie silence, yet in their hearts, a faint light of hope still glimmers. If you were an angel standing on the edge between light and darkness, what would you choose? Try to put yourself in their broken wings, their tear-filled eyes. Would you choose eternal loneliness or risk everything for a forbidden love? We want to hear your thoughts. Share your feelings in the comments below. Part 1. Mysterious Meeting. On heaven, everything is silent as if holding its breath. A blinding white light engulfs everything, but inside me is chaos. I wonder if I can endure this light, a light that pierces through my very soul. The angel stood before me, his face cold, but his eyes seemed to hold an endless sorrow. He asked me, "Human, if you were to witness the truth, would you have the courage to accept it?" My heart tightened, unsure of how to respond. They led me through endless corridors, where tortured souls screamed in silence. I couldn't stop wondering, what had these souls done to deserve such punishment? And would my fate be any different? When we stopped, before me stood a gate as black as the darkness itself. The angel whispered, "This is where the fallen angels are kept. They were once the protectors of light, but now they are swallowed by the darkness they themselves created." My gaze fell upon their weary faces, eyes burning with hatred. A fallen angel looked directly at me, whispering words like a fleeting breeze. "Do you think true justice exists, human?" I felt my heart tighten, a mix of fear and pity. I couldn't answer him. Are these fallen beings truly deserving of their punishment? Or are they merely victims of a power greater than themselves? The angel beside me said, "Every soul here once dreamed of changing the world, but their own ambitions led to their downfall. They were free, but that same freedom has now trapped them in an eternal prison." A sense of helplessness enveloped me, as if I too were a part of this story. I wondered, if I were in their place, would I have chosen a different path? Or would I too have become a fallen angel? We continued our journey through dark fields where there was no sunlight. Here, everything existed on the fragile boundary between hope and despair, between light and darkness. The angel told me, "Do you see? This punishment is not for their sins, but for daring to question." They challenged what should not be challenged. Those words echoed in my mind, making them unforgettable. For a brief moment, I felt as if I could see everything: the pain, the resentment, and the boundless regret. Perhaps they never wanted to betray, but simply couldn't continue pretending. The angel suddenly turned back to look at me, his voice like a cold breeze. "Do you believe in forgiveness, or only in eternal punishment?" I couldn't answer, for in my heart lay fears and conflicts of my own. His words cut deep into my heart like a knife. I began to wonder if the principles I once believed in were truly right, or if they were merely imposed by some unseen power. This journey was not just about the truth of heaven and hell, but also a quest for answers within myself. I looked at those fallen angels and wondered, am I really any different from them? The angel finally stopped, turning his back to the faint light, his voice echoing like a sound from the void. "Human, if you had the choice, would you forgive or punish?" And I turn to you, the listener of this story, and I want to know, What would you do in this situation? Would you have the courage to forgive, or would you choose the path of punishment? The decision is yours. Part 2. The Fall. Of the angels, their gazes from heaven gradually faded as their hearts were covered by earthly desires. This temptation was not something trivial, but a powerful call from deep within them. Simzaza stood among the host of angels, his eyes full of determination but tinged with sadness. "We cannot turn back," he said, his deep voice resonating through the still night. The hearts of the angels trembled before the allure of human beauty. They knew they were wrong, but their passion had become chains, pulling them into the abyss. Heaven became unfamiliar, the shimmering light like a fading dream. Beneath wings stained by sin, they felt the fractures within their souls. Each of them chose this path, knowing well that they were betraying their angelic nature. Yet the call from earth was stronger, making them forget their former nobility. Simzaza, with a voice full of authority, reminded them, "We have sworn not to turn back. This is a path with no escape, only a way forward." They realized that their eyes had changed, no longer those of pure angels. Those eyes now carried within them desire, conflict, and inner turmoil. The winds from heaven seemed to have ceased, leaving a gloomy sky above them. Their wings were no longer light, but grew heavy with regret. One angel spoke, his voice like a breeze. "Was our choice worth it? Or are we just fugitives running from ourselves?" They lived among humans, feeling love, pain, and despair that they had never known before. Each passing day felt like a knife cutting into their lost tranquility. Simzaza looked up at the sky, his eyes lost. "If only we had known the price of this exchange. But perhaps we were bound to the fate we chose for ourselves." Loneliness enveloped them, these angels abandoned amidst humanity. Human laughter echoed like cruel reminders of their betrayal. The nights grew longer, colder as they wandered between the realms of heaven and hell. A fragile boundary that they had created themselves. Another angel sighed, his eyes filled with tears. "Have we become beings burdened with such heavy sins, deserving of eternal punishment?" They sensed the change, not only in their hearts, but in their very bodies. The once pristine wings now rusted, feathers falling to the ground, turning to ashes. And now, as you hear this story, do you think they deserve forgiveness? Or must they bear the consequences of their past choices? Share your thoughts. Part 3. Under the Wings of Darkness. Terrible consequences. The darkness spread, and there was no longer any light of sanctity. These secrets not only revealed power, but also a curse, binding humanity into a spiral of sin and fear. The cities lay in ruins, with only the cries of lost souls remaining. The screams of those who have lost everything echo in madness, like an unending reverberation of despair. Nephilim know no mercy, only an insatiable hunger. Their eyes burn red like the fires of hell, consuming all life. Every step they take leaves a trail of death. The remaining people huddled together, trembling in caves, praying for salvation. But they knew that salvation had long abandoned them, leaving only destruction surrounding them. Those who once craved power now face their own downfall, realizing that the knowledge they sought has become the fire that burns the world. Some wept for the brutality of the Nephilim, but others looked up at the blood-red sky and wondered, "Is this the price we deserve to pay?" Amidst the screams and chaos, a man gripped a rusty sword, his eyes brimming with tears. He whispered to himself, "I thought I would be a hero. But it turns out, I am nothing but a coward." The fallen angels, now watching silently from a distance, feel the weight of their guilt. They cannot stop this nightmare, for they were the ones who sowed its seeds. A woman held her child's hand, looking into its innocent eyes, and wondered, "Does my child still have a future, or has it all been swallowed by eternal darkness?" Some say that among the ruins, virtuous souls still exist, quietly like small flames in the night. But is that enough to light up an entire world that is collapsing? A voice rose among the crowd. "We have made mistakes. But is there a way to fix them? Or are we just wasting our last breaths?" The elderly held hands, reminiscing about the days when the sky was blue and rivers were clear. But those memories now are only ghosts in the darkness. A young boy, with innocent eyes, looked up at the fiery night sky. "Father, where can we find heaven?" The father could only remain silent, his heart heavy with words left unsaid. The moans in the night were like final prayers, but they were drowned out by the growls of the Nephilim, as if to say that no miracles would come anymore. Amidst the destruction, a woman stood tall, her eyes blazing. "If we cannot find hope, then we will create it ourselves from these very ashes." Now the question is, do we dare to face our mistakes? Or will we continue to sink deeper into the darkness? Do you have the courage to answer? Part 4. The Curse. Of eternal remorse, Michael stood before the abyss, his silver wings trembling in the cold wind. His gaze fell upon the place where Azazel was condemned, without a trace of compassion. Yet in his heart stirred the indescribable pain of betrayal. Uriel, the bearer of the flame, spoke. "We once fought side by side, now only darkness and oblivion remain. Is this truly our destined fate?" His voice echoed across the heavens like a question forever unanswered. Raphael, with his healing hands, looked down at the suffering souls. He sighed, wondering, will this punishment ever end, or is it just an endless cycle of suffering? Gabriel raised the trumpet, its sound resonating through the air like a lament. How can we maintain purity when even in heaven, the flaws of humanity are present? Azazel, chained and engulfed in darkness, sneered, "Do you think you are any better? Yet you too cannot escape the specters of doubt and deceit." Semyaza raised his head, his eyes glowing in the deep darkness, whispering, "Perhaps the worst fate is not punishment, but oblivion. No one will remember us." A storm swirled up from the sea of flames, carrying the wails of the lost souls. In that moment, even heaven itself seemed to tremble from the pain of punishment. The other angels looked down, their hearts heavy with an unspoken question. Is the justice of the Lord too cruel? Or have we forgotten compassion? The clanking of chains echoed through the air, cold and hopeless. Azazel whispered in his dreams, "When will this pain end? Or is this the price we must pay forever?" Michael turned away, his eyes reflecting determination. "We must follow the will of the Lord, but if this is justice, can we still maintain our faith?" Raphael, with trembling hands, touched the wound on his wing, wondering, if we are also hurt, how are we different from those we have punished? Gabriel gazed deeply into the dark sky, murmuring, "Heaven has lost its light, and my heart is no longer at peace." What has truly changed? Was it them or us? Uriel burned the last remnants of memories of the days they fought together, then turned away in silence. Perhaps compassion was forgotten when we set foot on the path of punishment. Azazel looked into the darkness, but his eyes seemed to pierce through time, searching for the last light he had lost. Is there still a place for our redemption? Semyaza chuckled bitterly in his pain, his dry lips bleeding. Does the Lord know that even in darkness we still dream of a heaven, or has he abandoned hope for us? And then the wind blew through the chasm, carrying humanity's question to the angels. If you had the choice, would you do things differently? And you, the audience, what path would you choose if faced with the crossroads of justice and compassion? Part 5. Enoch's Doomsday Prediction. Enoch's footsteps were light, but his heart was heavy as he heard the painful sighs echoing through the air. Harsh punishments appeared before him, and the blinding light of heaven could not conceal the despair of the condemned souls. In the pale blue light, Enoch saw the angels cast down to hell, imprisoned in cold chains. Their wings had been stripped away, leaving only the deep pain etched in each tear. A voice rang out from the guiding angel. "Enoch, your task is to warn. They have chosen the dark path, disrupting the order of the universe. Now you must tell them of their fate." Enoch took a deep breath, feeling the coldness of the surrounding space, and said, "O you betrayers, you have sown chaos and suffering. Now you will endure eternal pain with no salvation." The fallen angels let out groans, not because of physical pain, but because they knew this despair was endless. They realized that everything was predetermined, and there was no longer hope for forgiveness. Enoch looked at the weary faces, then turned toward the sky above. Your prayers have been denied. Your repentance is now just a fleeting wind in the endless dark night. Thunder rumbled, emphasizing Enoch's warning. The flames of punishment spread, burning away the remnants of pride they had carried with their betrayal. You will no longer feel peace, not even for a brief moment, Enoch declared. Your cries will echo through the ages, reminding humanity of the price of betrayal. In that moment, Enoch saw the images of lost souls, forever wandering in darkness, seeking redemption they could never reach. But you are not only the punished. You are also the sowers of suffering, evil spirits lurking in the dark corners of the world, seeking to lure the weak into their traps. Enoch's gaze grew cold as he continued. Those who choose to follow the evil spirits will be drawn into the vortex of destruction. It is a curse that cannot be undone. But then, for a brief moment, Enoch also felt his own fear. He wondered, is this justice too cruel? Is there something we have overlooked, a glimmer of light in the darkness? Enoch looked up at the angel, his eyes filled with thousands of unanswered questions. He found himself torn between compassion and unyielding punishment. The angel looked back, saying nothing, but his eyes were full of determination. We are not the ones who decide fate. We are merely executors, was the silent message that Enoch understood. Enoch looked towards the human world, where the punished souls were about to cast themselves down. He wondered, forgiveness is so distant, but does this punishment bring any good to the world? And then Enoch turned to the invisible audience, those who were listening to this story. He whispered, if it were you, what would you do? Forgive or punish? And are you sure that your choice is the right one? Part 6, The Last Flood. A testament of hope and despair. Cold winds blow through the ruined cities, where whispers of forbidden knowledge have become a terrifying reality. Humanity begins to lose its innocence, sinking into bottomless ambition. The fallen angels, once messengers of light, are now teachers of darkness. They teach humans how to craft weapons and use them, how to distort truth to achieve power. On certain nights, under the red moon, one can hear the wails of lost souls. They cry out in desperation, pleading for release from the nightmares they never anticipated. Noah, with a heavy heart, witnesses the corruption of humanity. He knows that there is no longer a place for sanctity in this world, and the blade of punishment draws closer than ever. And then, God spoke, his voice booming like thunder, calling for preparation for the great flood. An act not only of cleansing, but also a final chance for hope. The floodwaters surged, swallowing even the tallest mountains. The sound of waves was like the sigh of the heavens and earth, blending with the desperate cries of the condemned. In the ark, Noah quietly gazed out at the endless sea. He saw faces once familiar, now only ghosts in his memory, swept away by the relentless currents. As for the fallen angels, they too could not escape punishment. Imprisoned in darkness, they were now lonely souls, stripped of the light they once guarded. But will this cleansing be enough to wash away humanity's greed? Or have the seeds of corruption taken root too deeply, ready to sprout once again? Noah wondered if the new life he was preserving on the ark was truly worthy. Unanswered questions kept him awake through the long dark nights. The loneliness on the ocean stretched on, drowning all hope of salvation. But a faint light flickered when the dove brought back an olive branch, the symbol of rebirth. The great flood passed, but the pain remained. The wounds humanity inflicted upon itself had never truly healed, only temporarily buried beneath the mud. Standing before a new world, Noah looked up at the misty blue sky, wondering if he had the strength to guide future generations away from the old, misguided path. God made a promise never to destroy humanity with a flood again. But that means the responsibility now lies in human hands to determine their own fate. But has humanity truly learned the lesson from what happened? Or will they repeat their mistakes in a new form, under a different sky? If you were Noah, standing between life and death, what would you choose? To forgive this world, or let it be swallowed by darkness forever? Part 7, Final Judgment. Do you believe that salvation comes only from above, or must we take control? In the darkness of the apocalypse, as the whole world trembles in fear, faint prayers rise into the endless sky. Who will be forgiven, and who will be forgotten amidst this sea of suffering? There are souls trembling, hoping for salvation. But how can they be saved when their hearts are filled with sin, and regret is not enough to redeem what has been lost? Souls that once walked the dark path now stand before the abyss of red flames. Can any of them find the light at the end of the tunnel? The flames of punishment burn fiercely, consuming all excuses. The screams are drowned out by the sound of dissolution, as each soul faces its deepest fears. Some eyes plead for forgiveness, but the silence of the Creator is the only answer. Is this silence indifference, or is it the way He teaches them to face the truth? Fallen angels who once stood beside the Creator's throne now kneel in agony. They realize that the freedom they pursued was only an endless nightmare. But is every punishment just? Or are there still things left hidden, with the light never fully revealing all truths? The righteous, do their hearts truly remain at peace witnessing such a scene? Or do they too feel a crack forming in their faith? In this world, nothing is purely black or white. Every choice leaves a scar, and those scars will follow them for eternity. The soul of the fallen cries out in despair. Why are we forgotten? But the answer remains forever, a cold wind blowing through the desolate place. If the Creator's love is infinite, then why must these souls endure such suffering? Is this punishment not for their sins, but for the weakness of mankind? Some angels in their final moments found repentance. But is that repentance enough to erase all the wounds they inflicted? Memories of the glorious times when the light still shone are now only fragments of a dream. They have lost everything, leaving only the emptiness of their souls. But amidst the ruins, there is still hope for those who dare to confront their own fears. For only in darkness can they realize the true value of light. The final judgment is not just about punishment. It is also a chance to rediscover oneself, for souls to find their way back home, where the light always awaits. And now, if you were one of those souls, would you choose to face the past or seek forgiveness in oblivion? Share your thoughts. What would you do? Do you believe in the mysteries hidden behind ancient books? If you wish to explore more of these mysterious tales, click subscribe and ring the notification bell to never miss a video. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments. See you in the next video.